You lazy bastard. Get up and do something. You're getting fat again. You haven't used Ring Fit since you bought it. Useless prick. I know. Review Ring Fit for a video. Dickhead. Hi guys, so I thought I'd do something different today and review Ring Fit Adventure for the Nintendo Switch. This is the Ring-Con, this is the game, so let's get started and see what happens. I'm looking forward to this.
Are you ready for a magical fun adventure? Well, unfortunately, you're currently too overweight to experience Ring Fit Adventure. Returning you to the main menu now.
Carrion is a Metroidvania horror game, developed by Phobia Game Studio and published by Devolver Digital. It was released in July of 2020 for the Nintendo Switch, Xbox One and PC. In Carrion, you play as a terrifying creature who strongly resembles my ex-girlfriend, and your main goal is to help it escape the facility where it is currently being held. Carrion received positive reviews from critics, who praised its fun combat and clever puzzles. However, many reviews for the game also criticized Carrion's confusing level design and lack of any real map, which could easily lead to a lot of players frequently getting lost in the game's maze-like environments. I personally had very little interest in playing Carrion in the months leading up to the game's release. The indie video game genre is already chock full of fantastic Metroidvanias, and Carrion didn't look like anything I hadn't already played a dozen times before. But then the launch trailer was released, and this might be my favourite trailer for a video game ever. Sure, it's only a short 90-second or so cartoon that isn't at all representative of what the actual game is like, but I could finally see what the idea behind Carrion was. This game is trying to make you feel like an unstoppable monster that can rip a man in half in less than a second. If you have ever watched Alien and thought to yourself, I would love to play a game where you get to be a xenomorph, slowly stalking your prey before finally tearing it to shreds, then I think there's a good chance that you will love this game. Carrion just taps into that primordial instinct within all of us to kill everything around us in the most brutal way imaginable. And while I know my therapist told me not to say things like that anymore, I think it's important that I inform everyone about how fun it is to kill things, especially in Carrion.
Put it down, fat boy.
Okay. Carrion doesn't waste any time by filling players in on the lore of this universe, or how this creature came to be. In fact, there aren't really any cutscenes in Carrion at all. You're always in control, which is a very rare thing to see in games these days. Carrion begins with the player being trapped within a small containment unit that takes less than 5 seconds to break free from. And once you have escaped, you are free to cause as much havoc as you like throughout the facility. It might take some time for new players to get accustomed to how this game controls. The creature is certainly unique in its design, and as a result, it also controls unlike anything else out there too. The creature moves about almost like a spider, scurrying from surface to surface, and using its massive size to destroy any obstacles in its path. During the first few hours of the game, your main goal is simply to destroy and eat everything around you, which funnily enough was also the main goal of my ex-girlfriend. Killing people is necessary, because as you take damage, you will need to kill and eat humans to regain your health. Combat is pretty simplistic at the start of the game. You are pretty much limited to grabbing your prey and tossing them around the place like a ragdoll until they die. However, it is also possible to grab pieces of the environment, like doors and vending machines, and fling them at your enemies, which will usually result in them getting crushed to death, which is incredibly satisfying to witness. Despite your moveset being incredibly limited at the beginning of the game, it isn't long until you find your first power-up. Like all good Metroidvanias, the power-ups in Carrion are probably the best part of the game, and they are all a joy to use. The first few power-ups in the game are basic enough, like the ability to turn invisible, which allows you to bypass lasers and sneak up on enemies like you're the Predator or something. It's great fun, but later power-ups are far more fun to fuck around with. Like when you receive the ability to turn your tentacles into sharp, spear-like implements. I'm not going to lie, there were times while playing this game where I was having so much fun killing innocent people that I was honestly questioning whether I should go talk to someone about it. Looks like this is the end, sir. It was an honor working with you. Stop that talk. You've got a little girl back home, don't you? I seem to recall you telling me she's got cancer or something. That's right, sir. I started working here in order to pay for her cancer treatments. Well then you've got to get out of here and take care of your little girl, and that's exactly what's going to happen. Stick with me, boy. You'll be just fine. Thank you, sir. If I could live one more day, I'd live my life in a better way. If I could see my daughter tonight, I'd sit by her bedside and tell her everything's alright. If I could work one more day, I'd have enough money to make her cancer go away. I don't want fame, I don't want to be wealthy, I just want my daughter to be healthy. I just need one more day to do things the right way. Well, fuck, son. That was beautiful. I'd say your little girl is very lucky to have you. Thank you, sir. Maybe once we get out of here, I could introduce you to her. I'd like that, son. But first we need to find a way. And by the end of the game, the sheer amount of carnage you are able to cause is just
beautiful.
The first few hours of Carrion are admittedly very easy. It's very hard to die when you are a massive force of death and destruction, but later sections of the game do thankfully pose more of a challenge. While the creature can make short work of security guards and factory workers, later on in the game you'll need to contend with walking mechs and these disco ball type things that are a complete pain in the ass to destroy. Honestly, if I told you how I really feel about these fucking things, my video would instantly get demonetized.
Not sure if I dare say this one. Wankers.
Oh, actually, now that I think about it, these flamethrower guys can also get fucked.
Do you know?
The pedo wankers.
So yeah, combat in Carrion is fun and engaging, and thankfully it stays fun for the game's entire runtime. Just like in real life, however, you are eventually going to run out of people to kill, and it's during these moments where Carrion really starts to fall apart. Navigating Carrion's world simply isn't fun, and this is down to two things. The first is that practically every area in the game looks identical. The entire game takes place within this facility, so there is an overall lack of environmental variety. You can only explore the same drab hallways so many times before it starts to become monotonous. The second issue is that there is no map in Carrion, and that's a real problem, because the facility in this game is huge, with several branching paths and optional areas. It's highly likely that most players will become lost at some point, and finding your way back onto the correct path can be very time consuming. It also doesn't help that the stuff you'll be doing outside of combat isn't all that interesting either. There are plenty of puzzles in the game, but I would only consider a handful of them clever or challenging. Most of them simply require you to either decrease or increase your size in order to access hard to reach areas. For example, when the creature is at its smallest size, it can use a web attack that can activate levers from a distance. Likewise, sometimes you'll need to make the creature bigger so that it can destroy barricades or protect itself from deadly traps. Making your creature bigger or smaller is always a pain in the arse, because it requires you to find these pools of red liquid where you can deposit your biomass, which makes your creature smaller in size. If you want to return to your original size later, you'll need to return to where you deposited your biomass and consume it. It's incredibly repetitive, and you need to do this shit dozens of times throughout the game. Carrion's story unfortunately isn't anything to write home about either. You are simply a terrifying creature trying to escape a facility. That's really it. Occasionally you'll get a flashback sequence where you play as a researcher exploring some mysterious ruins. These sequences are very cool and remind me a lot of that scene in Alien where the crew are investigating the spaceship. The ending is also pretty good, but I don't want to spoil it here. For the most part, however, the story in Carrion is practically non-existent, so if that's a deal breaker for you, you might want to steer clear of this game. Overall, I really enjoyed my time with Carrion. It's not perfect by any means, but the combat is so much fun that it easily outweighs any issues I might have with the game. If you are a fan of horror movies like Alien or The Thing, or if you just want to go on a rampage as a terrifying monster with 5 mouths and God knows how many assholes, I can't recommend Carrion enough. It has its dull moments, but when the game is firing on all cylinders, there's nothing else quite like it.